So we will have look on to epithelium or epithelial tissue. The first thing is that epithelium or epithelial tissue, one of the primary body tissue. A body have four primary tissue, you know very well: epithelium, connective tissue, CT, muscular tissue, and nervous tissue. So epithelium is one of the basic or primary body tissue. Rest of three are connective tissue, muscular tissue, and nervous tissue. In a healthy animals or in a multicellular organism, in a living body, your body have in many area of your body are covered by epithelium. For example, whole body is covered by epithelium. The covering of our organ is epithelium. The covering of body cavity is epithelium. The lining of organs is lined by epithelium. Many the secretory portion part of the glands are epithelium. That's mean what's mean epithelium? Epithelium mean epithelial cells. They have a specific arrangement on different area of the body. They also have a great variety. How the first, if you want to define epithelium, an easy way to define like that, the cell of epithelium are what? They are opposed each other. That means they are closely attached each other and located on what? Basement membrane. That's thing you need to understand. Okay. You know, some are the basic characteristics of epithelium. Basic characteristics of epithelium. Number one is that, first one, they are arranged in a sheet. Arranged in a sheet form. Make up membranes. Number two, intercellular. You know what? Can you define what is intercellular and what is intracellular? This is important. Local here, if there is a 2 or 3 cells, okay, like this. So the space between cell, space is known as intercellular space, are also known as extracellular space. Also known as space inside is known as intracellular space. Intra means inside. So low intercellular space between two epithelial cells, there is very less extracellular space or intracellular space. That's mean between two cells. That's clear. Number third important is that they are polarized. They are polarized, show polarity. Show polarity. What does it mean? That's mean they have different pole in other sense. If this is your epithelial cell like this, a single epithelial cell, you have what? A free surface which is actually known as apical surface. What is lateral domain or lateral surface? Both are lateral. This one is basal domain or basal surface, which is actually lay on basement membrane. That's clear. What is the number 4 character? Okay, they are avascular. This thing is little important. A mean not, vascular mean blood vessels. Point is that if this is your epithelial tissue, this epithelial tissue do not have blood vessels. In the cell or in the intracellular space, you will not find any blood vessels. They are known as avascular. So things need to understand in most of cases. The arrangement of epithelium is like beneath the basement membrane, you always have a loose connective tissue. A loose fiber of connective tissue, cell of connective tissue, and also blood vessels, okay, blood vessels and what? Nerve vessels, blood vessels and nerve vessels. So, what is that? Is epithelium is a vascular connective tissue is known as rich with blood vessels. Connective tissue is known as rich with blood vessels. So here, a physiological procedure which is known as diffusion play major role for the survival of epithelium. For the survival of, what is the diffusion? In diffusion, molecules transfer from higher concentration to the lower concentration. So if the blood vessels are rich here in this area in connective tissue, in epithelial there is no blood vessels. So what the content of blood vessels, for example, let's take the example of the nutrition. So concentration of nutrition will be higher here because nutrition is coming, a supply is coming via blood vessels. So here is no blood vessel, there is a less supply of nutrition. So definitely what really happened? To achieve their nutritional requirement, to achieve their survival requirement, epithelial cells are dependent on diffusion. Epithelial cells are dependent on diffusion. So material from loose connective tissue diffuse into the epithelial cells. This happened due to in this area, in connective tissue area, is the concentration of molecule is higher. Here in the upper area in epithelial cells concentration is low, so they move toward the epithelial cells. Point is that epithelium is avascular, but for their survival they have what? They have a diffusion, the procedure of diffusion. That's clear. Next character, and it's other thing you want to add here.
Regeneration, surface modification.
Yes, surface modification is also, if this you are talking about polarization, okay, we have many poles, okay. So there is this surface, they have modification, they have modifications, they have, look here, if this is, let me draw a new epithelial cell, a single epithelial cells. So epithelial cells, especially if you're taking into account this surface is what? Apical surface. Apical surface have three kind of, yes. The number one is known as, yes, microvilli. Number two is known as stereocilia. Number two is known as stereocilia. And finally you have cilia. You have cilia. So this is the, to achieve their functional requirement, to achieve their cell modify the epithelial cells, they have a surface modification which are microvilli, stereocilia and cilia. That's clear? Okay. At the same time, the lateral surface, let me draw one cell here, more epithelial cells. Lateral surface form a cell junction. Lateral surface form a cell junction. They are roughly easy in the simple language known as gap junctions. Okay. Okay. There are three kind of junctions: gap junctions and tight junctions. Which junctions? Tight junctions. Also known as the third class in adhering junctions. Which one? Adhering junctions. So listen again carefully. Cell also have cell junctions on lateral surface. Okay, this epithelial cell. Cell junction is a characteristic found in other cell, but it's commonly found in epithelial cells. Other cell of body also have cell junctions. Okay, because cell junctions play, with the help of cell junction you play two major roles. One is cell communication. Cell communicate each other with the help of cell junction, and also with the help of cell junction cell remain attached each other. Remain attach each other. So you will find cell junction in other cell of body also. This is not a typical characteristic of epithelium, but still epithelium have three kind of cell junction commonly on their lateral surface. On their lateral surface, these are what? Gap junction, adhering junction, and tight junction. You know what? These junctions are actually made up of proteins, protein molecules. So they are different in their function. Tight junction means there is no space between two cell membranes. If there is no space between two cell, look here, if there are two epithelial cells, so this is like, you know, you have stitched two cell membrane together. You have stitched. So not anything, not any molecule pass on from between the two cells. If there is what? Tight junction, here is the basement membrane, here is connective tissue. Not anything, any molecule can pass on via intercellular space. Because these both cell membranes are stitched each other, tightly hold each other. So not anything can pass on between intercellular. If something want to go into the lumen or from lumen come into the connective tissue, they will follow the route via cytoplasm, okay, with active transport, So you may be thinking, what is the role of the tight junction? Take the example of intestine. The epithelial cells of intestine have what? Tight junction. Because if this is your intestine here, so what is passing on from here? Food. What is passing on from here? Food. So this lining have which cell? Epithelial cells, okay? Epithelial cells. So beneath here there is connective tissue, muscular tissue. So food can diffuse or absorbed via this microvilli, but the same food or nutrition molecule cannot go inside via intercellular space, because the intercellular space is stitched, or two cell membranes is stitched by a specific type of protein which is called occludin protein, which is called as occludin protein. This thing is important. That's clear. The next type of junction, which is known as gap junctions. This is also a molecule of protein. So this junction actually provides some space if cell want to communicate each other or exchange some material each other. This junction help to the cell to communicate each other. If they want to change material each other, they use which route? Gap junctions. That's clear. This adhering junction or anchoring junction, they are actually used for attachment. They are actually used for attachment. For example, there is on this basal surface you may find, especially in the epithelium of epidermis, the basal cells are actually attached with the basement membrane via the help of desmosomes. Desmosomes. Desmosome is also type of cell junction. Also type of cell junctions. So listen again carefully. There is three type of junction. Need to understand one thing. One which are tight. Okay, the cell membranes are like stitch each other. There is not any single molecule can pass on from the intercellular space. That's clear. The adhering junctions are to hang on for attachment of two cell membrane or attachment of the cell with extracellular matrix. The attachment of cell with extracellular matrix. The gap junction for communication. If two cells want to communicate each other, if two cells want to exchange things each other, there are what? Gap junction. That's clear. Okay. The next feature of epithelium is what? Regeneration. The epithelial cells have great regeneration power. The epithelial cells have great regeneration power. For example, cell of your skin is regenerating continuously. Cell of intestine the entire intestinal mucosa, the entire epithelial cells of intestines are continuously replaced. So this is the ability of epithelial cell. They can have, this is another important thing I can tell you. As you go up from epithelium to connective tissue to muscular tissue to nervous tissue, the tissue lost their power of regeneration. Tissue lost power of in all four tissue. I believe epithelium have highest regeneration power. Connective tissue less than epithelium. Muscular tissue less than epithelial connective tissue. Nervous tissue even don't have regeneration power. Their nervous tissue do not have regeneration power. Point is that when you go to the higher types of tissue, the regeneration power will be. So this point is that regeneration is also a typical feature of epithelium. That's clear?
Yes, sir.
Look here again carefully. There are some typical features or basic features of characteristic feature. If you find this in any cell or anywhere, you say, oh yes, this is epithelium. This is these things from where you can identify an epithelial cell or epithelial tissue. What they are? Number one, cell will be arranged in a sheet. Cell will be arranged in a closely opposed each other.
Yes.
Number one. And number two, this sheet and cell also lay on basement membrane. Cell lay on our basement membrane is actually a non-epithelial structure, which is actually a connective tissue structure, which is actually a. But what basement membrane do? They separate epithelial cells from underlying connective tissue. Okay. Second is that you will not find intercellular space between epithelial cells. Okay. They have scanty, very less intercellular space between epithelial cells. Next, they are polarized. They show great polarity. Each surface have its own characteristics, have different surface. Okay? Cell membrane have different surface, like apical surface, basal surface, and lateral surface. And each surface is a different with according to their function. They have different structure. That's clear. Next is avascular. They are avascular, that means they do not have direct blood supply. Okay? They take nutritions or waste products with the help of diffusion. Okay? Next is what? Surface modification is something related to polarity. Each surface have its own characteristics. Apical surface have microvilli, stereocilia, and cilia. They are found in the different cell of the different epithelium of the body to achieve the specific function. Next, on lateral surface, they have a cell junction which holds different epithelial cells together and also perform many other functions. That's clear. And regeneration is the final one. Epithelial cells have great regeneration power. After having this idea, let's have a slightly look on the function of epithelium. Okay? So number one function is what? Number one function is what? Protection. You know what? Because cells actually do what? Epithelial tissue do what? The one of the main understanding of epithelial cell, we call it as it is a covering of body, it is a covering of organs. So in the covering role, they are actually providing protection to that specific area of the body or to the whole body. That's clear. So the one of the function of epithelium is what?
Protection.
That's clear. Next one.
Absorption.
Absorption. You know, absorption is what? Is the best example, the epithelium small intestine. Small intestine have simple columnar epithelium. The apical surface of that epithelium have microvilli. To increase surface area, they are actually do what? The cell there, also called as absorptive cell. Also called as the epithelial cell, have a specific name. They called as absorptive cell. Why? Because they do absorb nutrition. They do absorb nutrition, which passing on from the intestine. That's clear. What is the next function? Yes, secretion. This is one of another important function of epithelial cell. Epithelial cells have ability to the secrete mucus. If the epithelial cells are associated with any glands, they have to responsible specific secretion of that glands, maybe a hormone, maybe a enzyme. So they have ability to do some kind of secretion. That's clear. What next?
Sensory reception.
Sensory, you know what, there is some special epithelium in your nasal cavity is called as olfactory epithelium. So they do some sensory function also. That's clear? Any function is sensory, you know, sensory, what is sensory? Sense, something is related to what? Nervous. There is a special kind of epithelium which is known as olfactory epithelium in your nasal cavity. Yes. So at there they play a role for the sensory role. We maybe discuss later on when we study the histology of nasal cavity. That's clear? Also there is, you know what, the epithelium of retina, pigmented epithelium of retina in eye, you know, retina in eye. There is also epithelium playing the role of as a sensory epithelium, Pigmented epithelium of the retina of eye is playing the role of as the sensory epithelium. This is also something related to sensory. Anything else? Yes, they also do difference. This is also the function of epithelium. Anything else? Yes, they also do some filtrations, especially in the kidney. But these things are related to also with absorption. There are some basic function of epithelium. Excretion, already we have written here. Excretion, majorly they play a role. Listen again carefully. We have some basic understanding related to the epithelium. Epithelium is one of the primary tissue, have some typical characteristics have many typical functions. That's clear. In your whole body, epithelium is distributed all over the body in the form of sheet. External body is covered by epithelium. The surface of organ is covered by epithelium. Lining of the organ is have epithelium. Body cavities are covered by epithelium. So epithelium have some common characteristics or typical characteristics. They are arranged in sheet, low intercellular space, polarized, avascular, have surface modification, have great power of regeneration. Involved in many functions like protection, absorption, secretion and sensory. That's clear? Okay, thank you very much. Any question if you have, most welcome.